Hi everybody, welcome back. It's Miss Van Housen reading to you the tale of Despereaux. So, where we left off, it was a couple different scenes. We had the mouse council getting together. Remember the drum calling them together, the boom, rat, tat, tat drum, and then deciding what to do about Despereaux, who's so different of a mouse. And then we have the king telling Despereaux to scat, that he should not be talking to his daughter, the Princess P. So, dangerous times, I would say. Let's see what happens next in chapter 8, To the Rats. The rats. You ready? Let's read a couple more chapters. The Mouse Council. 13 honored mice and one most very honored head mouse heeded the call of Lester's drum and gathered in a small secret hole off King Philip's throne room. The 14 mice sat around a piece of wood balanced on spools of thread and listened in horror while Despereaux's father related the story of what Furlough had seen. At the foot of the king, said Lester. Her right finger on top of his head, said Lester. He was looking up at her, and it was not in fear. The Mouse Council members listened with their mouths open. They listened with their whiskers drooping and their ears flat against their heads. They listened in dismay and outrage and fear. When Lester finished, there was a silence, dismal and deep. Something, intoned the most very honored head mouse, is wrong with your son. He is not well. This goes beyond his fevers, beyond his large ears and his lack of growth. He is deeply disturbed. His behavior endangers us all. Humans cannot be trusted. We know this to be an indisputable fact. A mouse who consorts with humans? A mouse who would sit right at the front of a man? A mouse who would allow a human to touch him? And here, the entire Mouse Council indulged in a collective shiver of disgust. Cannot be trusted. This is the way of the world, our world. Fellow mice, it is my most fervent hope that Despereaux has not spoken to these humans. But obviously we can assume nothing, and this is a time to act, not wonder. Lester nodded his head in agreement, and the 12 other members of the Mouse Council nodded their heads too. We have no choice, said the head mouse. We must go to the dungeon. He pounded his fisted paw on the table. We must go to the rats. Immediately, members of the council, I will now ask you to vote. Those in favor of Despereaux being sent to the dungeon, say aye. There was a chorus of sad ayes. Those opposed, say nay. Silence reigned in the room. The only noise came from Lester. He was crying. And 13 mice, ashamed for Lester, looked away. Reader, can you imagine your own father not voting against your being sent to a dungeon full of rats? Can you imagine him not saying one word in your defense? Despereaux's father wept, and the most very honored head mouse beat his paw against the table again and said, Despereaux Tilling will appear before the mouse community. He will hear of his sins. He will be given a chance to deny them. If he does not deny them, he will be allowed to renounce them so that he may go to the dungeon with a pure heart. Despereaux Tilling is hereby called to sit with the Mouse Council. At least Lester had the decency to weep at his act of perfidy. That's a good word to look up, you guys. Perfidy. Perfidy. Reader. Oh, do you know what perfidy means? It says it right there. I have a feeling you do, based on the little scene that has just unfolded here. But you should look up the word in your dictionary just to be sure. I forgot about that part because I feel the same way. Very sad right now. I hope this book gets better, but there's a long way to go. It's sure to get a little more upbeat. Chapter 9, The Right Question. The Mouse Council sent Furlough to collect Despereaux, and Furlough found his brother in the library, standing on top of the great open book, his tail wrapped tightly around his feet, his small body shivering. Despereaux was reading the story out loud to himself. He was reading from the beginning so that he could get to the end, where the reader was assured that the knight and the fair maiden lived happily ever after. Despereaux wanted to read those words, happily ever after. He needed to say them aloud. He needed some assurance that this feeling he had for the Princess P, this love, would come to a good end. And so he was reading the story as if it were a spell, and the words of it, spoken aloud, could make magic happen. See here, said Furlough out loud to himself. He looked at his brother and then looked away. This is just the kind of thing I'm talking about. This is exactly the kind of thing. What's he doing here, for cripe's sake? He's not eating the paper. He's talking to the paper. It's wrong, wrong, wrong. Hey, he said to Despereaux. Despereaux kept reading. Hey, shouted Furlough. Despereaux, the Mouse Council wants you. Pardon? Said Despereaux. He looked up from the book. The Mouse Council has called you to sit with them. Me? Said Despereaux. You. I'm busy right now, said Despereaux, and he bent his head again to the open book. Furlough sighed. Geez, he said, cripes, nothing makes sense to this guy. Nothing. I was right to turn him in. He's sick. Furlough crawled up the chair leg and then hopped onto the book. He sat next to Despereaux. He tapped him on the head. Once, twice. Hey, he said, the Mouse Council isn't asking. They're telling. They're commanding. You have to come with me right now. Despereaux turned to Furlough. Do you know what love is? He asked. Huh? Love. Furlough shook his head. You're asking the wrong question, he said. The question you should be asking is why the Mouse Council wants to see you. There is somebody who loves me, said Despereaux, and I love her. And that is the only thing that matters to me. Somebody who loves you? Somebody who you love? What difference does that make? What matters is that you're in a lot of trouble with the Mouse Council. Her name, said Despereaux, is P. What? The person who loves me, her name is P. Cripes, said Furlough. You're missing the whole point of everything here. You're missing the point of being a mouse. You're missing the point of being called to sit with the Mouse Council. You've got to come with me. It's the law. You've been called. Despereaux sighed. He reached out and touched the words, fair maiden, in the book. He traced them with one paw, and then he put his paw to his mouth. Cripes, said Furlough. You're making a fool of yourself. Let's go. I honor you, whispered Despereaux. I honor you. And then, reader, He followed Furlough over the book and down the chair leg and across the library floor to the waiting mouse council. He allowed his brother to lead him to his fate. And we will have to wait until Monday to hear what that fate is. I want you all to have a really great weekend with your families, and I will see you soon. Your teachers miss you, and I miss you. And I want you all to take care